What is up, YouTube? So today what we're going to end up doing is making a sandblaster booth for the hand sandblaster. So this one in particular, Speed Blaster, it says it's made in the USA, and that's mainly why I got it. So if you want something of quality, definitely always look for made in the USA. Don't get the Chinese stuff because you always get bad reviews. I was a little hesitant to get this type of sandblaster for 50 bucks. It's kind of pricey, but it's able to sandblast anything, whereas a cabinet, you're limited to your actual cabinet that you're gonna blast in. This, you could take it on the go with you anywhere you want. If you need to blast underneath a vehicle, you could still blast underneath a vehicle. But this one's made in the USA, and the brand is Speed Blaster. It has a ceramic tip. It's removable, and it tells you the grit and everything on Amazon of what you could shoot through here. I think it's like recommended to shoot 14 grit and smaller. So 14 grit would be your max. You have a regulator here that regulates how much flow of the media it's gonna come through. You also have up to 125 PSI is the recommended highest PSI that you want to shoot from here, and the lowest recommended would be 60 PSI, so that way it would actually work. Anything lower than that and it may not blast away the stuff that you have. Also, instead of running, right now I have steel grit in here, but if you have some thinner metal, I do recommend running shells. So they grind up shells and you could run them through here and it'll blast out. I think they're almond shells, and that's what they shoot out of them. So that way it doesn't pit your steel and start deforming it and that type of stuff. One thing you're gonna have to purchase is a little quick disconnect for your air compressor. So whatever you use, keep in mind that when doing so, you want to make sure that the end here is the correct end for yours. They have a few different tips, so from this point forward will vary. This seems to be very common, this style. So I don't know what they call it, but that's the style. And this is a 1/4 inch, so right here it says 1/4 inch pipe thread. And then you're going to want to pick up, of course, gloves. So I got these on Amazon as well, and basically they are just sandblasting gloves. They got this rocky grit. It's from the rubber. It's almost like air pockets. That should allow you to grip your material, whatever it is you're blasting. But you want this style glove. You want it to be sandblasted, rated, because you don't want to blast through your hand. And also it's going to generate static depending on the stuff that you use, and that will be it'll shock you if you don't have the right gloves as well, or if you have a hole in those gloves. Also, you want to purchase a regulator. I recommend whatever regulator is cheapest, that has decent reviews. And what this does is you're going to need the fitting from here to your compressor. You're going to need the regulator. It typically comes with the gauge, the cheaper ones do at least. And then you're going to need a oil water separator. This is a cheap one. I think it's like 10 bucks or whatever on Amazon, maybe even cheaper than that. These are typically placed to run a spray gun, and I made one universal one so that way I could run a spray gun all in one. Just plug it into the compressor and then plug whatever you want off of there. I do recommend, if you are looking into a regulator and you're going to use it for multiple things and use it a lot, I do recommend getting the ones with the canisters that hang down, only because you could drain those a lot easier than this one. This one has a little push drain fitting here. It's like a needle valve, Schrader valve type setup. And then of course you need the female end, so that way you could connect a hose to this, to the gun as well. If you do purchase this one on Amazon, you're going to need a stop depending on what size. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 ends that are threaded, and depending on the size of the holes that you use will determine the plug that you need for the leftover hole. So keep that in mind when doing this. They do not give you a plug, which kind of sucks. But I mean, this regulator I think was like $6 or $7, something like that, and it was rated decently well. I'm surprised no one's really complained about not having a plug for theirs. Maybe mine just didn't come with it. And then you're gonna need a tote, so something like this. And this one's Sterilite. This one's 24 inches length, 18 inches wide, and 15 1/4 high. And the reason why I got this one is because it does have a seal. I got this on, where did I get this? I got this at Target. It's like $12 or $13. They have different sizes, so depending on what you're trying to blast will determine what you're gonna buy. Okay. It doesn't really matter if you have a seal or not. The reason why I did this is because it has a clear lid, and I want the clear lid for viewing. So what we're gonna end up doing is taking a hole saw. You don't have to use a hole saw. You could use whatever it is you have, a hacksaw or something like that. Drill a few holes all the way around it, and then use a hacksaw to finish cutting out the ring. This may be still too small. This is the biggest one I have. I could fit my hand in there, so it may work. Start off small and you can always go bigger. And the reason why I say that is because you don't want media flying out of, you know, your box. Okay, so you're gonna need that. And then you're gonna also need a Sharpie and a tape measure. So get your Sharpie and tape measure to mark everything out, so that way you're centered up or wherever you want to be. You don't really need this. You can eyeball it if you want, but I want to get it precise, so that way I know everything's centered up. So one thing I want you to know is I'm not going to drill the hole from these two ends, okay? So I'm not going to do either one. I'm going to drill it from this side. So if you look at here, this is a longer distance than this, and I don't want to put my hand in here and have to do this. So when I'm sandblasting, I don't want to have to stick my hand in there that deep. It just won't feel right, you know. It's too much of a reach and it's unnecessary. So what I want to do is I'm going to drill this way, so that way when sandblasting I could stick my hand here and then reach anywhere in this box I want, without having to really reach really deep into the box itself. And not only that, when you're blasting, at least you could hover over it a little bit to stick your hand in and look over while you're blasting. I'm not yet set on how I'm gonna do the gun, because I don't want this gun in here while I'm blasting. So what I think I'm gonna do is drill a hole through the side. So I think I'm gonna drill a hole through the side just to put the nozzle in, and maybe put like a rubber grommet around it, so that way I could just move it back and forth and bring my part up to it. Okay, and see what that does and how that plays out. But yeah, let's get to it. Enough talking, and let's actually get to drilling this out. Okay, so originally what I was gonna do was go from the center right here, and I marked out, this is 21 inches, so I marked out 10 1/2 to the center. I'm going to scratch that idea, and I'm going to go 1/3 the way. Well, from the edge to this hole, I'm going to do about 5 1/2. So I split the difference. I made it into quadrants. And the reason for that is I found out that this right here is going to be really big. So if I got to do this, and even though it's going to be on a table, it's not going to feel right. It's going to feel like I'm leaning over it too much. So back here is going to be better, and then I could spray out that way. And I may drill a hole on the top for the gun to spray down, so that way it doesn't blast up and hit my lid and get rid of my vision, because it beads it up and makes it all nasty. You could also put saran wrap on the lid or something that's transparent, or buy the sheets that Sandblasting Booths use, and then stick them on there so that way it keeps it clean. But yeah, like I said, I think I'm gonna shoot my gun from up here down so that way it collects all in one corner, and then my glove will be here so I could hold my part while I'm doing it. And I put it in the middle distance here so that way it's not too close to the floor where, you know, it's getting all the beads and stuff flying up everywhere, and it's not high enough to the top, you know, fogging up the actual lid. So let's get to drilling now. Wow, so that fell straight through. As you can see, it cut a clean hole. Really nice. And then all you need to do is take some sandpaper and deburr this, or if you have a deburring tool, just scribe it all the way around. A deburring tool would work good. You know, just scribe it and knock off those edges. But that's what it's gonna look like. Of course, I could fit my hand in there really well. Perfect circle. That's actually a perfect size. I don't even know what diameter this is. I just grabbed the biggest one. This is 4 1/4 diameter, and that fits perfect for my hand. But yeah, so that's it. Let's get the gloves in there, deburr it, and see what it looks like. Okay, so what I have here is the deburring tool, and then a rubber grommet that this thing could stick into, and I could move it around, make sure it's loose enough so that way it has movement abilities. And then you're also going to need a stepper bit or just a large drill bit to accommodate your grommet. I mean, these things are way cheaper than buying a drill bit, especially for thin wall stuff like this. You could accomplish multiple projects with a stepper bit. So that's deburred, and let's do this side. Plastic is real soft, so it just like shreds really easily. Also, another reason why I got this one over some of the other ones is the thickness of it. This one was a lot thicker than the lids that are not clear, the ones that are like gray or black. This one's a little bit thicker. You could go with, the best ones would be like the hefty ones, the heavy duty stuff. The issue with those is they don't have a transparent lid, you can't see through. What you could end up doing is cutting out a square out of the lid and going to buy some plastic for like, I think they're like $5 or $3 at Home Depot, a 10 by 10 sheet where you could put on top of that, hot glue it down or whatever you want to do, and it would hold that way. But those I would recommend because they're a lot tougher than this. The only issue is when I went to Target to grab these, because I'm going to do a spray booth one too. I'll show you that probably today. The reason why I went with this is because Target had them and I didn't feel like driving everywhere. And it's a good concept. I didn't want to have to search. They did have the ones that are black and stuff that are real thick, but they were larger than this, and I didn't want to have to reach around and deal with all that nonsense. The reason why I got the deeper one though was so the media didn't blast back up when I'm spraying in here, because they do have the ones that go under your bed, and those are cool and all, but I didn't want to have to deal with my top getting fogged up or messed up as fast with the media ricocheting, because that's going to cost more money. And then at that point you might as well buy a blaster, a cabinet blaster, and buy one of these as well, because you're going to be spending more money and trying to keep your lid clear. You could do it by feel and all that stuff, but I like to know what I'm blasting. Okay. So let's get to drilling this lid. I measured this from here to the center. That was 7.625. Okay. And then from here to here, 5 inches. So that way my hand could be out here while my nozzle's back here in the center, and I could go either way. Just remember, you could always put more holes in it later. Doesn't have to be set this way forever. So I'm not too worried. I should have piloted that. And the reason for that is because I got a small crack right here. That sucks. Oh well. It is what it is. Okay. So, gotta measure this out. So we need to take this up to 3/4. And we should be there. Okay, so when searching for your grommet, make sure it fits your gun, of course, whatever gun you get. And also make sure the thickness here is the thin one, because this is thin material. And you know, you could kind of maneuver this in, see if you can force it in. So it has to go a little bit more. So that's not gonna work. Remember, you could always go bigger, so don't take off too much at once. But remember, don't measure this hole. This is a good starting point, but there's a thickness of rubber, probably leaning towards the same thickness as this lip here. And you want to calculate that, because it's going to be 2 times, because you're going to have that thickness on this side and that thickness on that side for your diameter. So that's why I said make sure your bit is large enough for it as well. So this is starting to push in. It's still too small. Okay. Just keep going until it fits. So got that in there. Perfect. So that actually went to about, let's see, about 1 inch. And then now I could get my gun in here and put it in there like that and kind of rock it back so I could spray. And I could still adjust my lever here for the feed that I want to shoot out as far as the grain's concerned. Okay. And that's pretty cool. What I'm also going to probably do eventually in the future is 3D print some little areas like this, so that way I could glue on it with some epoxy, and then I could angle my gun like this, and then maybe have a few at different angles. Maybe have like one junction here, but each one pointing at a different angle, so I could allot for that difference and change. But for now, if you don't have a 3D printer, this is a good start. Okay, and this gun, 50, 60, so $70 for this whole setup. So you're gonna be looking at 70, 80, probably a little bit under $100, the bit and stuff like that. If you don't have that stuff, but you still need a regulator, you need the fittings, So you're looking about $100 to complete this. You can pick up a blasting cabinet, all metal one that goes on your table, and that's gonna run you like $125 for a Harbor Freight one plus tax and all that jazz. So you're roughly looking around, it's 125, you're looking around 140 with California sales tax and all. So you would save $40 this way, but like I said, this gun's gonna be more universal if you need to spray something like underneath your car where it can't fit in that blasting cabinet, or you can't take off the part to fit in the blasting cabinet. This setup's way more universal, but the blasting cabinet is nice. But just remember, those take a lot of air to keep pressurized, so you would need a fast recovery pump. At least this way you could tune it down and it kind of funnels everything in, and you should be able to regulate this one a little bit better than a blasting cabinet, where it requires more high volume of air capacity. Okay, so that's that. Let's get this, so the gloves on. I'm right-handed, and that's why I have the left-handed glove in here, so that way I can manipulate my part like this, and then I could hold the glove or hold the gun with my right hand where my trigger finger is going to be, because like I said, this is going to be just to keep the part like tilted up. So this is what it looks like with the glove in there. You know, the glove kind of helps seals this like that, so it keeps the media in. If you angle your hand like this, it'll block and hold your item. It'll block out some of the hole. Got a smaller hand, definitely go with the smaller size hole. But what you could do, and what I'm gonna end up doing probably later on down the road, is they have, for the blasting cabinet, inserts that hold these gloves open like that. And you could sandwich the glove in there so no media comes out. But for right now, this is how I'm gonna use it. I'll probably even 3D print them. Yeah, I mean, I'll just 3D print a ring that will suck this thing to the wall. So that's what that is. And then, of course, your lid. You put the gun in there, angle it. It's gonna look like this while you're spraying. And then once complete, once everything's buckled down, bam, it holds everything properly. You could even shoot like this if you don't want to put your hand in the gloves, and do it that way. Okay, so that's where that's going to be at for right now. And then, like I said, put some saran wrap or something to keep your glass from fogging up, or your plastic from fogging up. You could even buy one of those cheap layers of plastic from Home Depot and stick it to the inside, maybe put some Velcro in there or something, and then pop it up onto that so you can pull it out. Or buy the media blasting cabinet plastics and get those as like tear-offs. Both will work for you great. And like I said, you just got to weigh out your options for this to see if it's worth your money investing in this setup or just going with the cabinet. To be honest, I'd do the cabinet because I do a lot of smaller stuff. But, you know, I wanted to do a DIY for this channel. So if you're looking into getting something like this, at least you have some sense of knowledge of what you're going to be facing before you buy the stuff and how much it's going to cost you. Especially the, you know, everything's going to start adding up really fast. But it is what it is. The blasting cabinet's great and all, but like I said, you need a compressor that will run it, and a DIY is what I'm looking for, because anyone can go buy a blasting cabinet and call it a day. But if you have this item, or if you have the tub, you know, you could save your money there and just use what you already have and do the small projects like that. But definitely, if you're not in a hurry to buy this stuff, look on eBay and Amazon. They always got deals running, and buy a little bit at a time at their lowest price. especially when it's like 4th of July day sale and stuff like that, Memorial Day, President's Day, whatever it is. They always have like knockoffs of like 10% or 5% or whatever, and get a cut that way. But yeah, so that's going to complete today's video. If you like this video, definitely consider subscribing. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. If you're going to try to do any of this and accomplish your own bead blasting box, I definitely challenge you to do it. And also stay safe. Always wear eye protection, even though this is all contained. Definitely wear eye protection, because you never know, this could pop out and beads could fly up. So always wear eye protection when operating this stuff, and consider subscribing. Until next time, I'll see you in the next DIY.
Show me love and I'm yours.